Mm, 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 mm. Hey guys. Yay. Okay, I'm trying to get this thing straightened out here. Hold on. Wave. Hi, I'm waving. Y'all know how I am about waving. I be trying my best to wave at everybody. Hey, happy Friday. Ooh, it's Friday. I'm so happy that it's Friday because that means I get to have a funnel cake soon. I try to treat myself to funnel cake on Fridays. It's my bad girl behavior. Hi, Wendell is here. So we're just waiting on uh, Nicole. There's my girl. All right, let me get her. Let me see. Join. Sent a request. Let me make sure my volume is up too. Okay. Nicole!
Hi,
Hi, baby girl.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hold on, let me see. I'm just trying to make sure my camera doesn't fall over to the side. My little mini setup. You're in Florida. How's the weather in Florida?
Um, it was pretty hot, but like this past week has been the coldest it has ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your idea of cold? What's cold?
Okay, so at first I thought cold was like around 70, 65, right?
You're
But no,
correct.
it got really, really cold this past week. It got all the way down to the 30s. And I was like, wait a
Oh,
minute.
that's not cold. That's disrespectful.
Right. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm not used to this at all.
Right. I'm like, that sounds a little disrespectful.
Yeah, it
All
was.
right. Okay. So happy. I'm gonna take this off because I feel like it's gonna fall over in its own time. Okay. Um, how's it been going for this month? For all of you guys who are not aware, which you should be because I post it all the time, and Nicole, I'm sure she posts it all the time. As much as I see her doing. January is Human Trafficking Prevention and Awareness Month, and so um, I brought Nicole on here because she's my sister. And so the interesting thing is we've never met in person, right? But my bond and my love for this one right here runs blue deep. Like runs blue deep. And so I thought it would be with Awareness Month for us both being survivors is to educate people and talk to people from our own perspective versus the interview style that we always do all the time and type of questions versus just sharing how it comes and sharing how we feel and our experiences and what we see, what we catch, the language. Because I always say I can look and I can tell. I can see body language. I can read between lines. I can read through what people say, what they attempt to say, and I know that they're hiding something outside of that. So I know what other type of questions to ask. And so I want you to tell the audience at the moment a bit about yourself before we dive in of what you want to share, babe.
Okay. Well, I am a sex trafficking survivor. I was kidnapped and sold into sex trafficking at the age of 13, along with my best friends. We were it was very, I want to say, like, the experience that happened to us is not like how it happens nowadays. We were just walking down the street and some men just just drove up on us and asked if we wanted to, like, go hang out and, go hang out with them. And so we got into the car with these guys that they weren't like scary looking, and, we didn't really look our age. We looked, a little bit older than our age. And
Mm,
so, and these guys were like in their early 20s, and I think one of them, the youngest one, might have been like 19. And so, when they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to hang out with us?" We just got into the car, just being young and naive, and out here in Florida, they're like, "Hey, and it was freezing cold outside. It was actually January when it took place 20 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. 20 years ago, it was freezing cold outside. So we were on our way home, and these guys asked if we want to ride, and they'll take us home. We were like, all right, cool. So we did it, and get into the car with them. We didn't know that that moment was going to change the rest of our lives. They like their energy went from being friendly to aggressive very fast. And they bolted the doors shut, and they took us to a local motel here, and stripped us of our clothing, and they drugged us, and we were very inexperienced. We weren't having sex at that age. We weren't drinking. We weren't doing any of that stuff at that time. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, when they took us to this hotel, they raped us and drugged us, and held us captive for over a month long, and then started to sell us to other men. There was a strip club here in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was called like Black Magic back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
they took us to that strip club and basically were like showcasing us around to these different men, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that went on for the month long that we were with them, and then we were able to escape um, with one of the men that was supposed to be like a watchdog of our, watching over us. He realized how
Mm-hmm.
young we were, and he ended up letting us go and like to sneak us out of a back door. And so we took that opportunity and we got out of there, but we were definitely, that we didn't return as the same young girls, at all,
Yeah.
not at all. And
Yeah.
when we returned home, like our families treated us like, we had run away, and they treated us like we were just being fast, or, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we did
Mm-hmm.
see that they did have like missing flyers all over Jacksonville and stuff. So they were looking for
Mm-hmm.
us, but it's like when we returned, it's like they really didn't, like we didn't receive like the services that, you know, that are
Being offered
available
today.
nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That,
so, yeah.
so you were gone. Okay, so you were gone a whole month.
Hmm.
And when you guys got, you know, I guess snuck out, how far away were you guys from actual home? Like, how did you guys
Not
get
far.
from wherever location? How far were you like to get home?
We weren't that far. We were literally like right around the corner from, I believe it was Jessica's house. So that was like on the west side of
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville. So we weren't very far from Jessica's house. And Jessica is our best friend. There were three of us, and so Jessica
Mm-hmm.
is my best friend who was actually murdered, and so she's not like here today to like share our story with us. And so we tell our story, but kind of like in her honor, and that's what like inspired us to write our book.
Yeah. Everybody, you guys, you have to get the book. I'm gonna pin it and then put it when I save the video. Mine is see, so for me, you've heard the term grooming,
Oh yeah,
right? You know,
definitely.
we hear that all the time. So my story is it's a little different because I went home.
Mhm.
I went home, so mine was more of a hidden in plain sight. And I feel that psychologically, I was groomed to have my voice silent without necessarily understanding what was happening. So I was raped at 6 years old. You know what I mean? My like I say all the time when being interviewed. My parents had me young. My mom had me at 13 years old. My dad was, 17. They were young. So when I go back and I think about it as the adult version of me, I'm like, at 6 years old, they were what, 19? And what was I doing at 19? I was in college at 19. But I was left with so my mom's boyfriend at the time was a drug dealer. I'm from South Central. I'm from the hood, like smack dead in the middle of the hood between Normandy and Western. You know, like that whole where they filmed Boys in the Hood and all that. Like we used to watch them film that. I'm from there.
Wow.
Um, and so I grew up on my mother's side, you know, all my uncles, they were young, but they were gang members, right? So being around, you know, drug dealers and gang members, that's not foreign to me. And my mother dating a drug dealer at that time was also not foreign to me. And, you know, she went out, left me with the brother, right? And the brother's girlfriend. Girlfriend left. I was there by myself with the brother, and I was raped. And you know, that rape was actually it was very brutal. It was, you know, I was duct taped, I was tied. It was harsh for me. That was my, you know, experience. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. Um and the thing was, I remember checking out, like blacking out, and then coming to. And then I told my mother, and her being young and being shocked at that time, when I think about it as a parent, her that was a hard pill for her to swallow,
Mhm.
knowing that. I think for me, looking at the sensitivity of her, um, feeling shame and guilty that she dropped her daughter off, and something happened to her like that, but it was swept under the rug. It was
Mhm.
a very, that didn't happen to you. Don't talk about that. Don't tell that to anybody else. Don't talk
Yeah.
about that to anybody else. So that was the first time where I was silenced by my mom. And
Oh.
I had to go to school and act like everything was okay. And I'm walking around carrying this secret
Mhm.
of some fucked up shit that has happened to me. I don't know how to process it. You know, I love my mother, so I didn't say anything, right? That happening at 6, and then at 9, my mom's brother, the oldest, my Theo, um, raped me in the house, right?
Mhm.
From 9 to 11. Right. So think about the psychological programming of that. And I actually deal with a lot of kids that they get groomed in that way where sexual abuse and sexual starts early,
Yeah.
right? And so when I told my mother about this one, and she actually, you know, she believed me on this one. But when we told my abuela, we told my grandmother, and my grandmother shamed me for that. That's her oldest son. It's her favorite son. And it was, you know, maybe you should stop being so seductive. Even though she didn't say seductive, she just said, you need to cover up. You need to cover up more. You can't wear dresses around the house. You can't, like the little nightgowns with the ruffles and stuff. You remember the little
Yeah.
nightgowns? And I remember I had like a little rainbow bright, you know, nightgown that I was my favorite that I wore all the time, right?
Mhm.
So at that time, I'm thinking, I'm in trouble. I got in trouble. The first time I wasn't believed. The second time I was believed at 9, but it's my fault. You know,
Mhm.
I brought this on myself. I did this to myself. And once again, it's just something that you're not to talk about. Don't tell anybody that this is happening. Don't talk about any of this shit with nobody, or I'm gonna whoop your ass. Like it really is just, it's that. So I'm going to school every day with two secrets now, but also with a fear of, this is what happens when I'm going to go home. Now, this happened from 9 to 11.
Mhm.
So that is kind of like the history of being, you know, groomed into that.
Yeah.
So as smart as I was, I stayed at school a lot. School was my safe haven, being around teachers all the time, because I was an academic scholar with the worst self-esteem in the world, thinking that, you know, love was sexual abuse. Love was inappropriate behavior. When I wanted some, you know, some type of attention, I would act out. I had really bad behavior, but I was smart, and I was considered fast or promiscuous and all this other shit, but I was really smart. So by the time I got into middle school, um, I was getting bullied at middle school. I went to Audubon Middle School, which is rough. Okay, like that school is known to be rough,
Mhm.
and I was getting my ass kicked all the time. right? There was girls that were, from the hood that banged all the time. And I remember my best friend, her family was from Hawaii. She was from Samoan. And I remember her name was Grace. They set Grace's hair on fire. So her mom was like taking my kid out. And I was left by myself. So it was the whole, if you can't beat them, join them. So I ended up joining the gang. And so I was on the side of blue. I was a Crip. I did homework, but I fought all the time. And the interesting thing was that I tried to bond with the girls that were bullying me. I tried to create some type of relationship with them because at that time I felt like, well, maybe these are the girls. Maybe if I tell the shit that's going on or the things that was going on at my house, I could bond with them in some type of way. And I befriended one girl in particular. And I told her everything that I experienced, everything that I've been through, from the drug house rape to the shit with my uncle to all that. Lo and behold, what I didn't know was this girl had a boyfriend who worked for um, what I like. I call it a Leshamir, and I know you know the word John or a charmer. Um, and he was 16. They also call them Romeos, where they're younger and they're working for the grown men. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But they use the younger boys to lure in the younger girls because it's easier to feel safe with a boy who might be just a little bit older from you. And at that time I was 12. I was in middle school. So I'm just like, oh, 15-year-old, he's older than me. He's popular. I'm about to hang out with some high schoolers. And so I ditched school with the girl I was, I banged with, and I was like, oh, we're about to go get some McDonald's. Maybe I'll do her homework, something like that. You know what I'm saying? She knows everything about me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm about to hang with her and her older boyfriend. We ditch school and we go into this house. And like you said, you know how you walk into a situation and you're like, this shit ain't right. Like this about to
Some don't
change my
feel
whole.
right. Yeah.
It just like some don't feel right
Mhm.
with this situation right here. You understand? I walked into a house and it had you like laid out on the table. There was weed, there was cocaine, there was guns, there was money. You understand? Everybody was grown. Wasn't another kid up in there. And the girl that brought me in there, I turned around. I'm looking for her. Her ass is going out the back door on the other side, and I knew it. You understand? I'm set up. I knew I was set up at that moment, and I'm like, fuck. Like, what are you gonna do? What you gonna fight? You know what I'm saying? You 12. What are you gonna do? And then um I had this guy come up to me. He was just like, yeah, she'll work. You know what I'm saying? She'll work, and took me upstairs. And that was a wrap. And what they did was everybody tested me out, and including the women. I had two women come up there as well. And that was it. They knew, first of all, they were from a different hood, right? So they knew my family, they knew my uncles, the threat of, you say anything,
Right.
you know what I mean? I'm gonna ride up and just take off on my family. So I felt, number one, I'm already set up to not ever be believed. I'm already set up to be shamed and blamed. I know how this process works. I know how my family is. The first thing they're gonna say is, "What the fuck were you doing ditching school in the first place?" That's all I was thinking about at 12 years old.
Mhm.
And I got I never said anything. I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what to, I did whatever I was told. Did school when I had to, after school. And here's another thing. You had flyers out, but you were missing for a full month.
Mhm.
So they were looking for you.
Mhm.
For me, no one was checking for me. They
Mhm.
looked at like, oh, if Kionna's not, home by a certain time, she's probably at an after school program. She's
Mhm.
probably at, mind you, because remember, I'm an academic scholar. I'm always doing something after school. I'm a
Right.
teacher's pet. I'm always in some type of computer program, or so I was a straight up nerd. You know what I'm saying? I just had the lowest self-esteem ever. And I thought that my value was being a sexual product for someone else's pleasure and going to school. That's all I thought I was. I didn't feel supported. I never felt heard, understood. I felt like I didn't have no real friends. I didn't have anybody. And you see, and I know you see these girls all the time, a lot of times feeling like they're alone, or they're by themselves because you have this secret. I dealt with that from 12. I didn't get out until 15, like right before my 15th birthday, and that's a long ass time to go through transaction after transaction.
Right.
And I escaped. I escaped because I ended up coming home pretty late. Um, and it was after a transaction, and my grandmother finally was just like, "It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Where you been, all this time?" Right? And I actually got my ass whooped at 13. I'm like, now you want not getting spanking? But what happened was I bled. And so my grandmother thought she kind of cut me with the belt. She called my other grandmother and she took me to the hospital. And what found out was that I was ripped, anally, I was ripped from the transaction that I just left from. And the doctors pulled my grandmother to the side and told them, that what the fuck? Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that my grandmother looked at me like, what is you talk right now? Talk to me about what's going on right now. Who did this to you? What happened to you? Because my grandmother always knew I was acting different. She didn't know how different. And she didn't
Yeah.
want to say anything because my grandmother on my dad's side, she didn't want to piss my mother off and lose access to being able to bond with her granddaughter. So she
Mm-hmm.
didn't say anything. She knew something was up. She didn't want to ruffle any feathers. Right? With that, when I told her I had to spill. I had to tell her, we in the emergency room. I'm
Mm-hmm.
about to get stitches. You know what I'm saying? I had to tell her something, and I told her everything. So what my grandmother did was she took me without saying anything. She took me to her house, which was completely like way far away from like where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of to a degree. It was like in Westchester. I changed schools. I cut my hair. We dyed it blonde. Like we cut it off. We dyed it blonde. I homeschooled.
Wow.
And she kind of like hid me. I didn't go anywhere by myself. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do anything without being taken to and from by an adult. So my grandmother kind of helped me get out of the situation. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I told her was because that night, a girl that I had bonded with, who we would be sold in pairs, um, I think we went to a dock where they ship packages overseas in Long Beach. And I overheard, she's going to sell a certain amount of money for a certain price overseas. And so they ship
Mm-hmm.
on the docks. Do you understand what I'm saying? You think there's big wooden packages over
Right.
there or these boxes. You don't know what the fuck is in them boxes.
Right.
She didn't get back in the van.
Mm.
You understand? And so the fear that I could be sold overseas in a whole nother country and never return was enough for me to be like, okay, when my grandmother asked, I told. That
Let's
that
get
that
something.
probably was
Yeah.
the scariest. That was the scariest thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's how I got out.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for like sharing all of you with me right now. I
And
really
I want to cry.
appreciate that. Like, I wish I was right there so I can just hug you right now. Like, for real. Like, I love you. I'm so happy that you were able to finally escape at that age.
Mhm.
Because it's so many girls that don't get out until never, And so I can share with you a little bit more of what happened to me after when I came home. Like I said, I
Yeah.
didn't come home as the same girl,
Mhm.
after that
Mhm.
that that what happened to the three of us really changed me literally for the rest of my life. So I was then shipped to California. My family, my mother, she was like, "Well, I can't handle you here. You need to go to California to go live with your aunt and stuff." And so, because I started to like, run away from home. I just was rebelling after that happened to me because I was being
Yeah.
punished. I was being punished instead of like,
Yeah. Support
understanding.
it.
Yeah, I didn't get a hug. I wasn't told you're okay now, you're safe now. I wasn't told those things. So I was just then
Yeah.
so scared all the time and I literally attempted suicide twice. It didn't work. I tried taking all kind of pills in my mom's medicine cabinet. It didn't work. And so I started just missing school and then I just completely dropped out of school at that point. Then so that's when she was like, I'm sending you to California to go live with your aunt. So I move in with my aunt in San Francisco. She then sends me to Balboa High School. Um,
I know that's
yeah, and so and that's the school that she worked at. And so while attending that school, things started to go, good, living with her family, her husband and her children. And so
mm-hmm.
her husband started to have to pick me up from school and bring me home. And then once we were left alone a lot, he started to
Mm-hmm.
molest me. And then he started to rape me. Um, so he would do that every day. He did it every day. He started, and then he tried to like offer me money. He just was like, just being, he would threaten me with a knife, saying that if like you told anyone, I will kill your aunt and I would kill you. And not only was he raping me, he was raping his own daughter. Me and her shared a room, and I was on the bottom bunk and she was on the top. And he would come in our rooms even at night when my aunt was home. And I'm like, how did she not feel him get out of bed? Like, at one point I felt like she knew what was happening, because I'm like, there's no way that like,
Yeah.
and then like
Yeah.
I know that she had an
Yeah.
older daughter. Like I don't know. I just felt like it was a reason why the older daughter just never came around. And then by being
Yeah.
there and that happening to me, I started to understand why. And at that point, I'm still just, 14 years old, and my mom, and then so when I finally like gained the courage to tell my aunt, she goes, "Oh, well, she goes, "Well, you probably seduced my husband and all these things." And she was like, "Oh, you're doing exactly what you were doing in Florida. That's why your mom sent you here." And I'm like, "Wait a minute." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, "Wait a minute." So she packed my bags, gave me $2 bills. I remember this like it happened yesterday. She packed my
Two
bag,
$1
two
bills.
$1 bills, dropped me off at the BART station on a street that I had never even like been on. She dropped me off like I was not blood to her. Like I was not her blood. She dropped me off and she said, "I can't have you living here around my son and around my husband. You can't stay here anymore." And so then, I just ended up getting myself picked up by like this random guy, and he ended up being just a trafficker of mine. He just was all like, "You can stay with me." He was all, "You can stay with me, but if you do, this is what you have to do." And then he was the one who taught me how to walk the streets in Oakland on San Pablo. And so at that point, I'm like, I'm no longer in school. I'm walking the track now. This was completely all new to me, but it was like I had to survive. I was not really connected with my family that much out there. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't sure of what they knew or didn't know, so I felt judged by them. They just looked at me like I was a bad seed or something. So it was like I felt so judged by my family. I did not have any support at all. And so I ended up going from that trafficker to another one, like switching out, just being with different pimps. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and then I ended up becoming a teen mom at 16 by my last trafficker. And so, and then ended up just having my daughter. And then when she turned she turned 2 years old, that's when I just was like, what, I'm like, I have to do something different. I'm like, I have to change up what I'm doing. But like, I was about 18 years old at the time, and I just was like really just I didn't know what to do. I didn't have an education, I didn't have.
Uh-oh. Hold on, Nicole. I can't hear you. Oh, wait. There we go. There we go. You said you didn't have any education, any what?
Right, I didn't have any education, no job experience. I'm 18 going on 19 years old. So life was it was challenging for me. And then so that's when I got into like stripping because I was like, okay, I'm like it's a little safer. I'm like I'll have security in the building and
You feel
and
like you had a bit more control.
yeah, like I
You
didn't
know
have
what
a
I'm saying?
family. Yeah, and so I was able
Yep,
to like just independently like get my own place and just kind of fend for me and my daughter. And so that was just life for me for a little while. And then my neighbor ended up inviting me to church. We had daughters the same age. He was a guy, he befriended me, and we just became really close. And then I got saved in that church, and then that's when I started to like make like my transition into just all that I do now. Going back to school and
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
So life really started to take a turn. It took many years though, because I want to say like around 21 is when I feel like I was fully out of the game.
yeah. I felt, did you ever feel like you were the black sheep? I felt like I was the black sheep. Everybody felt
Yes.
like Kiana's weird. You know what I'm saying? Kiana's different. Um, I used to use school as I just, my one up of, well, at least I'm smart. I used to say stuff like that. But even after trying to finish up high school and things like that, I felt so isolated. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, I wasn't dreaming about a career. All I
Right.
had was I lived in the world in fear. It took a long time. I didn't go to therapy until I was about 27. And I tried to use going to college and getting degrees and getting these like really good jobs like with like ESPN as sports journalist. I tried to use that to just kind of cover my image so
Right.
I didn't feel like I was damaged. I felt like I lived damaged. I was just like, no one is going to want me. No one is going to look at anything other than what I went through, and I have to add all these accolades and accomplishments and all of these other things so that I can have some value. But I lived in fear of men. I felt like you don't, I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to really date. I remember when I first went to therapy, my therapist was just like, have you ever chose to have sex because you want to, not because you feel like you need to or you have to, or if something's going to happen if you say no? Have you ever, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
That's a
I
good
told her
question to
no.
be asked.
I was just like, because I was so afraid that, well, this is what love is, or there's no one's, if they found out what else is going to happen, they're going to leave me. So I'm just going to have to give them what they want. They may take it. They may hurt me. I remember telling a guy, no, I was 17, right? And I was getting ready to catch like the dash is a bus. And a guy had two women in the car. He was an adult. He was grown, and he tried to holler at me, and I was just like, no, no, thank you, I'm good.
Hmm.
This motherfucker pulled around the car. When the men don't take rejection well, like I was trained to really fear men and the harm that they cause you. And he pulled around, got out the car, and was just like, don't ever tell me no. You think you too good? And he called me, he knocked me clean cold on the bus stop. My jaw on the left side, now on the right side, had wires around here because he cracked it a little bit. So sometimes when I go like this, it'll pop sometimes. But it just set the tone of just do what you're told. Give men what they want.
Right.
Don't talk back to a man. Don't just because they're either going to, if you don't give it to them, they're going to take it.
Right.
And my self-esteem still wasn't built, even though I had gotten out of that. I didn't know who I was. And I fell in love in high school. and met someone who never asked me for sex, never pressed me, never anything. And I was able to tell him everything. He's the first person to ever make me feel safe, and he's my son's father.
Okay.
And but he he passed away 7 months into my pregnancy, and I became a single mother and had to raise, Chris and finish college on my own. He was the first person I felt like I can trust that won't take violently, from me. Um, and when I had my son, I was just like, all right, we on our own. It's just, and to have a son, I was just like, I have to raise my son to be completely different than the men that I experienced in life.
Right.
And, you know, I felt like I needed to be better for him. I needed to heal for him, for
Hmm.
me, but for him.
Hmm.
And the interesting thing is, you know, doing the work that, I do now, and now with, us being adults and being grown women and going through the healing process. And when I'm telling you the journey, did you go to therapy?
I did. Yep. It was in I want to say about 24 is when I started to really go to therapy. So
Yeah, I
it
started
changed
at
my
at
life.
28. See,
It, it's
you went to church,
Yes.
and
I went to
and
church.
it changed you.
Yep. I
I
went to
went to
church.
church, and it was a mega church. I'm not gonna say it on here, but it
Hmm.
was a mega church. And the assistant pastor tried to sleep with me, tried to take it.
Hmm.
Men in the church to me were no different than men in the world.
Oh
So
yeah.
it wasn't, I was just like, there is no way, nowhere to be safe. No one was off the market of feeling safe when it came to me. So I learned God at the beach. That's why I always have to live by water. I just took the Bible
I'm
and I
the
said, God, what do you
same.
mean?
I'm the
Yeah,
same with the beach. I love the
right.
beach.
I
Yeah.
was just like, we're gonna have to change. I have to be here for my son,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna lose my mind. I've tried to commit suicide several times. I mean, several times before I had Christian. And once when I was with him, because I was just like, I think he'll be okay. I gave him enough support system with my godparents and people who I met in life who chose to love me because my family didn't love me. Like I didn't feel loved, seen, supported. I am completely detached when it comes to my family. My family still look at me like the black sheep because then they're like, now you telling the family business all over the world. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, listen. That's how it is. I don't give no fucks.
Right.
But
Not at all.
I went to the beach and I was just like, God, if you want me to be here, I have to do something different. I'm gonna have to learn you and love you and see you and heal. There has to be more to my life than just being, Christian's mom because he's gonna grow up. And then what's gonna happen to me? What does love feel like? What does love look like? What is it like to be loved unconditionally without being like sexually desired? There has to be more to life than just being desired for someone's pleasure or somebody's object or somebody's something. Like I'm a person on my own, but I don't know what that looks like other than being smart. But what the fuck does that? What is that gonna be? So now doing this work, I tell the girls all the time, you could take the mask off. This is Miss Keyonna. Like, fuck what you think I look like and all this other stuff like that. I can get down in the mud with you. Like, you talk to me.
Hmm.
Like, I had to learn to love me
I
and know
want
what
to
it
ask
looks like to
you.
love me.
I want to ask
hmm
you, how did you get into, this work? Like, when did you decide, or when did you know that you wanted to do this work? And like, when did you first start telling your story?
Interesting thing was I didn't want to tell this story.
Right.
I'm gonna be straight up with
Understand.
you. Remember, I I went. remember I went to school and got all these accolades, and I got multiple degrees from these private universities. I went to USC, Spelman, all of that. I didn't want no one to know that
Mhm.
I went through. That was shame. I carried so much shame, and I felt like I was ugly. And people were always just like, "Oh, you're so pretty," but I wasn't pretty to me, which is why that's the name of my organization. Um, and I felt like I didn't have no value other than being what other people wanted, you
Mhm.
know? Um, so I'm here I am at NBC Universal. I had left ESPN, right? And I wanted to do something different because I was just like, I can't be working around this many men and not climb the ladder without feeling like I have to do something. Because let me tell you something, one thing, because of what I've been through, and I'm pretty sure you are this way too, motherfucker, I will never be for sale. You could never try to impress me with stuff, materialistic things,
Right, none of
your
it.
cars, you can't tell me this is how much money I will not sell my ass for nothing.
Nothing at all.
I'm not doing anything sexual to get it, nothing. I will get it out the mud. If it means taking it in 5 years longer, so be
Right,
it. But
right.
you cannot tempt me to do anything for you. Nope. Mm-mm. So I went to I was working for E, right? And so I was working on the show Kardashians and Basketball Wives and all these other things, right? And I was just like, yeah, I'm making it. I'm doing great. My son was at school. And I was a very involved parent. I was a helicopter mom because I just felt like, the world is a dangerous place. And I went up to the school. I remember the day I went up to the school, and it was middle school, and I think it was a career day or something like that. And a lot of the girls, the principal was just like, hey, Miss Monroe, can you talk to the girls about working in television and entertainment and, what you did and so on and so forth. I said, sure. So I had one group of girls were just like, I want to look like you when I grow up and I want to be you when I grow up. Actually, nope, you want to be yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself. You don't want to be me. You are enough as you are. You're going to have to learn that. It's just like, plus you don't know what Miss Keyonna been through. So hearing that they were looking to be somebody else,
Mhm.
and also I was paying attention to body language to some of those girls in the classroom, and listening to how the girls were trying to fit in, trying to see what boys liked them, what girls they could try to do whatever they needed to do to fit in. And I remember I tried to do, like, what did I need to do to fit in middle school, and that ended up fucking me up. Um, and after really talking to them and telling them what I do for a living, but also telling them a little bit about where I came from and things like that, they started telling me all kind of stuff. The bond is set. You know how you meet somebody and you find
Yeah,
out you got something relatable that you
right,
didn't think
right.
nobody would be able to relate to you with. And Miss Keyonna been through this? What? Christian mom went through this? Right? So they started telling me all kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And when the class was over, so many of them came up to me and hugged me. Some of them hugged me and didn't want to let go.
Mhm.
And I was just like, these girls are going through some things at home. They're going through some things at home and they have no one to talk to. And then when I went to work, the work was no longer fulfilling anymore.
Mhm.
Going to work every day and then going to pick up the schools. And the girls remembered me. They said, hi, Christian's mom, and they were coming to me and talking to me, telling me about serious stuff going on. So I started finding ways to volunteer my time. I was taking my paid sick leave and going up to the school to volunteer and do after and just do things and talk to the girls. And the dean said, Miss Monroe, you have changed the dynamic of the school because you've changed the girls.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they were just like, the boys listen to the girls. But when the girls fight, it's hard to get the girls under control. But when the girls are getting along and they're bonding, some of the girls, they were misbehaving and acting out. Come to find out, they was going through the same shit I was going through at home. They didn't have anybody to talk to. They didn't have anybody to tell.
Right,
One girl tried to hang herself in the girls' bathroom because she was being bullied. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
they just so happened to walk in there. It's just middle school. They like 11. She's 11. I felt like this TV and trying to hide what I went through with my accomplishments cannot remain my story. I'm going to have to share it. It makes a difference. And I needed, I thought it was more valuable to be what I needed to
Mhm.
other people's kids
Right.
because somebody has to listen to the quiet girl. And it's not about whether she's getting straight A's or not. Because I got straight A's all the time. I think I
Right.
got one C in my life. And, and, but my self-esteem was so shot. Didn't matter. It wasn't, I tell my girls all the time, you're not defined by a letter grade on the paper. You know what I mean? I care about who you are and who you show up to be and what you see in the mirror, what you say to yourself when you look at you, you
Yeah.
know, because pedophiles come to get you when your self-esteem is to the ground.
Hmm.
You understand? And I felt like I was preyed on. I felt like I was sought out. And because I had nobody for me, because I had no advocate for me, because I had no one, that was going to believe me, I didn't say anything. I never, and so it's really important. All my girls in foster care group homes, and the thing is that this shit is happening all around the world. That story is everywhere. It's not just here in the States. It's everywhere. I have girls
Right.
talking to me from everywhere, and then, you know, working with the parents. The parents not knowing what's going on with their kids and not paying attention or not believing or not believing because it's hard to believe. Even if it's hard to believe that something like that has happened to your child, believe them anyway. Believe
Right.
them anyway. You know what I mean? That's more important than anything you could buy. And
Right.
don't make them feel isolated
Hmm.
because like I said, it left me to go look everywhere for acceptance and anyone I could find it from. And if I would have just had it from home, you know what I'm saying? If I would have just had it from home, even after, like you said, after when it was over, people were treating you from your own family like something wrong with you. It's just
Right.
like you have the opportunity to show up for me now and you still won't. The choice of still not showing up.
Right. Yeah, I had a support group for parents in California for parents who had children that were commercially sexually exploited because they need
Hmm.
support, because they need help with understanding how to support their child because
Right.
they don't know what to do. They are, feeling guilty. There's a lot of that guilt and shame also. They don't even want to tell their friends what
Hmm.
happened to their kid or just whatever it is
Hmm.
that they're experiencing. And so they have a hard time communicating with their child. So I just always just suggest to parents, whether or not their kid has, been sexually, exploited or in situations like this or at risk. I just say like I'm like keep an open door kind of policy with your kids. Like talk to them, like kind of get on their level. Like don't just always be like no no no, like parenting them always like in such a strict way. They need to be able to feel like they can come to you if they don't have like a mentor or someone else to come to. They need to be able to feel like they can come to their parent because I never felt like I could.
Right. Did your family ever come around? 'Cause I remember my mother said something happened to her growing up. So my thing is, I recognize that, and I forgive her. I pretty much forgive everybody because I look at it now as the healed version of myself that hurt people to hurt people.
Right.
And I realized that my mother went through something, and her voice was silenced. So she really just did what she, was told to do, which was to be quiet.
That's healthy.
And I tell parents all the time. Yeah, I tell parents all the time, you know, um, sometimes you parent your kids by showing the vulnerability.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I let my son know when I'm hurt. I'm human. I'm your mother, but I'm Keyonna as well. And sometimes I hurt too. Sometimes I make mistakes too. Sometimes I fall short too, like things like that. Um, but
That's something I'm working on.
yeah.
I'm working on that because just from all that happening to me for so long, and my mom, even as younger, even before being kidnapped, my mom never really showed like hugging and telling me I love you
Me
like
neither.
did my grandma to her. So there's not a lot of like I don't hear I love you from my family and
Me
hugs and
neither.
all of that. So it's
Right.
like it's weird for me still when people like want to hug me and love on me, but like I'm actively thinking about it. Like I love you and I want to hug you too.
Yeah.
And
I love it. But I'm the same way. Like I'm super,
yeah.
super affectionate, and my whole brand now is love. Like I'm like
Like
I
self-love.
didn't have it. I didn't have it growing up so bad, and I understand how important it is. When you feel loved, when you feel seen, when you feel heard, when you feel understood, you create a safe space. There was never a safe space for me to talk about what was going on. Even when I was a kid, there was never a safe space created by my family for that. And they still are kind of the same way. And that's like a generational thing, which have the buck had to stop here. But, you know, I I felt like now it's important for me to be that to as many kids and as many people that don't have it. And I recognize with the work that I do with adults that I'm working with their inner child, and I understand how that is because I'm constantly loving on my inner child as well, because she was silenced a lot. So with prevention, I'm always trying to pay attention to. I live cautiously always now. My eyes are always open. They can never be shut again. You will never unsee, you will never unexperience, you will never forget, you will never any of that. And one thing is living as as a survivor, as strong as I am, sometimes it still feels like it's a little bit isolating, just a little bit at
Definitely,
times,
definitely does.
because not a lot of people, sometimes, I'm human and I still get triggers. As healed as I am, I still get triggers, right? And I still feel like, who am I going to tell that to? You know what I mean?
Like,
I have years of transactions and things that I've experienced. When I get a trigger, who am I going to tell that to? I feel sometimes it's very lonely and you feel really by yourself because those are the time you just can't be going to tell those kind of stories. I remember my first therapist, I told her one of my stories because we bonded and she cried. She cried her ass off in the session. And it made me feel like I can't tell them hurting my therapist's feelings. I'm breaking her
right,
heart because I'm telling her something that even she can't handle. So if my own therapist can't handle
right.
that level of a traumatic story, I know I can't tell my friends. I know I can't tell my significant other,
Hmm.
especially dating.
Right. It's very hard.
Oh,
It is. It's very hard.
yeah,
I definitely I feel you when you say you feel isolated. Like, I could be in a room full of people, that are just like proud of me and like want to love on me. But I definitely feel it. I sometimes just feel very isolated and I don't know what to do with these feelings. And I can't tell people that, oh, I'm triggered about this and that. They're not really going to
yeah,
understand, and
I
people always,
understand.
all the time, offer me drinks and stuff like that, but I don't drink. I don't really like I can go out, I can have a good time, but I don't drink and
Yeah,
I don't like to go into my whole story as to why I don't drink. But I just don't
yeah,
drink, you know?
yeah,
I just don't drink.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm very cautious about that, and so when people say, well, what do how do you feel about Awareness Month and how do you feel about what's going on in the world? Um, I say until there are no longer any buyers, because kids are vulnerable, young people are vulnerable. I think it's the saddest thing that there are still buyers.
It's the
I think
buyers.
I
It
think it's
is.
a sad thing that people still have a desire, that people don't control their urges, that people don't have self-control, that people, want to be sneaky and manipulative, that people want to, I think it's a psychological illness. And I think, it's worthy of an ass kicking every time. And it's not just some people just like, well, is it just the men? It's not always men because it's women too.
Yeah.
I've experienced it with women too. And sometimes you have, I've had some of my girls tell me that their moms, were going through hard times with money. Their foster care parents, or if they're in a group home, they're having a hard time with money, and they'll sell their kids. They'll sell their girls. That's not something that I've ever experienced. My mom didn't do that, to me,
Hmm.
but she turned a blind eye, and to me, I felt like, what I'm saying. That's to me, it's just as bad.
Definitely.
And like I said, until there's no, it just there's. I think we need to come together to stop something like that. I'm just me. I'm one person. You're just you. You're one person. And there's a lot of us who speak out on this. We speak out on what is $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? Empire. You can sell drugs once. You can
Right.
sell a child for years and years,
Years.
over and over and over. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so, and people don't realize that they're not just doing that to you for a year or two, that they are restructuring psychologically, mentally, emotionally the rest of your life.
Hmm.
I just turned 40 last Sunday, and it's still here.
Hmm.
It's still here. It affects everything that I do. It affects how I move, what my tolerance is. You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Um,
You look amazing,
and
by the way.
thank you. You probably is it too. And so I really wanted to, I can't believe it's been an hour. But I feel like I wanted us to come on here and talk about our real experience and how we really feel and how we live today. And sometimes, heroes hurt too. Sometimes, people look at us and be like, oh, they're survivors. I don't want pity, but I don't want to be on a pedestal either.
Right, right,
Do you
right,
understand what I'm saying?
right.
At all. Heroes still hurt too. And I'm consistent. I'm always healing. I'm a forever healing journey. You know what I mean? Um, and I just wanted us to have a platform where, even though there's nothing wrong with being interviewed, there's something about talking freely and
Yeah,
sharing what you want to share, not what you're asked to share.
right. And then especially with another survivor, just to be
Versus somebody who ain't never been through it.
right. Like I'm talking to someone who actually understands everything that I'm saying and I don't have to over
Yeah.
explain myself.
Yeah. Oh, the over explaining part. That's the part too. And hoping that they get it and that they don't think, something wrong with this bitch.
Right, right. Because I always feel like that. I'm like, after I share, I'll be like, oh, okay. I'm like, are you okay after I've shared that?
Okay.
Because I know that's
I
a lot.
always say that. I ask people all the time after they're done talking to me, like, are you okay?
You
I
okay?
know I
Like,
just said a lot to you. Are you
right,
okay? You know what I mean? Versus I'm telling you, and I can tell in your face
right.
expression, like you're saying, yep, yep, right? Like you
Yeah.
get it. And so I appreciate you for coming on and being vulnerable and letting me be vulnerable and share this story, because I don't be talking in depth. I don't, I don't be
No.
talking in depth, you
Neither
know.
do I.
Um,
Like, even as a public speaker or whatever, I really don't like to even talk that much. Like you, I didn't even really want to share my story either, you know what I'm saying? But because of the shame and all of that stuff. But I know it's healing. I know it's healing for others. I know it's very
yeah,
empowering for other survivors. I know we need to continue doing it. And I'm
yeah,
so thankful that you invited me on here today. And I'm happy to do it again. Like, we can continue this and do it again if you'd like, just to keep inspiring.
yeah. Because I want us to come on here. I want to do another show, and I'll ask, when I post it, what other people are thinking. One of the things that a lot of women come to me and talk about is how do you date, how do you have any type of sexual intimacy in any way, shape, or form at any capacity after going through something like that for so long? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely something I want us
That's
to
definitely a
talk
whole nother
about.
hour of a conversation that we
That
definitely
is,
have. Like
listen,
I got stories I can tell you, okay? Like
listen, listen, we're gonna have to do a whole nother one. And yeah, I want to
yeah,
talk about that because I didn't think I would have a sex life
right.
after all of this was over. And let me tell you something, when my therapist was just like, if you don't want to have sex, say no. And if the person decides to walk away from you, let them walk. I didn't have sex for years
Oh my
because I
goodness.
was just like, I don't even think I like it. I don't even think I like it. I don't know what the fuck it is. Like that's literally, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I was just like, get off me. And then being re-triggered, the sensitivities of being re-triggered and making sure that, you know, you don't black out.
Mm,
I was
right.
so used to tuning out and checking out mentally and just waiting for it to be over so I can live my life.
Yeah.
I took that into even my adulthood. That took a lot of work. So we gotta do a live on that.
That's a
I'm
whole
gonna
yes.
text you.
That's
Yes,
a
I'm
whole
I'm gonna
lot.
text you. That's a whole nother, like, that's a good, I got some stories to tell, boy.
Yeah, definitely.
Um so we have to do it. But like I said, thank you for, you know, being here and making me feel less alone because I don't talk about it a whole lot. I'm always caring for other people and I don't always have, a space outside of an interviewer sometimes.
Mhm.
Or I'll talk to another survivor that is really looking for me to be their strength so I don't get a moment to, you know, just
Yes.
be in the weakness and share that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
Without
appreciate
feeling,
you. I thank you so much for being vulnerable today. Uh,
oh,
yes. I can see the
yeah,
weight
oh,
lifted off of
yeah.
your shoulders being able to just, do that. So that's really amazing. I really wish I could hug you right now, like so tightly. I'm
Thank
trading
you.
for happy tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so grateful. And so we'll have to do it. We'll have to talk the next time and we'll get like some good details in. But
And remember,
to
I told you I'm
everybody
going to
who's
be out there in
watching,
California next month, so we will be able to connect.
oh yes, we are. Ooh, we can do it live. But to everybody who's watching, you see us here as adults and what we go through now. If you see something, please say something. Even if you feel like, I think something is happening, or I think it looks like something is inappropriate with this situation, say something because there are plenty of times when I was younger and I was like, people are looking and no one is saying anything, and you be wishing sometimes,
Right.
like, I wish they would just like catch eye contact if
Right.
they could just catch eye contact with me, you know what I mean? And if they could just see me so that they could help me.
Right.
Because, and people would like look away. They don't want to see, they don't want to be involved, they don't want no problems.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not realizing that, I'm just a girl. I'm not fast. I'm
Right.
not promiscuous. This is something that's happening to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you see
I didn't choose
something,
it. I didn't choose this life. It
I
chose
didn't
me.
choose this.
It chose me. I didn't choose it.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's kind of like, if you say something because the girl is in danger. She can't cry out for help, but you could make a phone call. You have cell phones
Take
now,
a picture.
you know,
Yeah.
take a picture, take a little video, like low key follow a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Without getting her in trouble, but like make the phone call. Don't turn the other way. Don't turn a blind eye because we're here, but I know plenty of people who didn't make it out with me.
Right.
You know, I
Mhm.
know plenty of people who didn't make it out with me. And those that just barely made it, I know a few that they took their own life. They just can't because
The
the
thought,
memories
yeah,
stay with you
the
and they
thought
haunt you. They
destroys.
haunt you. You know what I mean? That's probably the maybe the hardest thing for me is you heal, but the
Yes.
memories sometimes they come.
I
Life
cannot
is
sleep at
different.
night. I'm afraid of the dark still. I
I
cannot.
don't watch regular TV. Well, like, how people will be like, "Oh, you should watch this movie or you should watch
Right.
this series.
I get
Watch
that all
Game
the
of
time.
Thrones or watch this." And I'm like, I've gotten out of the movie theater. I'm like, "Oh, there's a rape scene? Oh, that's not
I can't do
entertainment
it.
to
Right.
me." Like, and it'll fuck me up.
Right.
I can't live my life like everybody else.
Right.
No more. Not ever. And people they don't see that. You know what I'm saying? My thing is another thing before I end it is, be compassionate
Hmm.
with people. All that negative energy and that mean girl shit and that other shit, like, and quick to judge and condemn and make negative assumptions about people that you see for whatever reason. People might look at me and you and they'll think whatever, but we have stories. I think you have a beautiful spirit. I love you so much. Y'all don't understand. I have not met her in person. This is my first time even seeing
I
her,
love
and
you.
I love her so much. And there's no judgment. Like there has to be more love and compassion, and we need to have more compassion for other people.
Definitely.
And 'cause you don't know just because of what somebody looked like, what they've been through, and you don't know if they having a triggering kind of day or not.
Hmm.
So that's it. I'm not gonna be crying on this fucking live. I'm not
You're okay. You're
gonna.
okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, guys. That's it. I didn't open it up for questions.
Well, look, y'all. I want to share my book with y'all.
Yes, please.
Life Outside the Game with my childhood friend Tatiana Yoguez. We wrote Life Outside the Game, a sex trafficking testimony, and it came out last year in August 2021. And it's available on Amazon and also on our website,
Yeah,
lifeoutsidethegame.com.
get it. I'm getting my signed copy when you get here, so
Yes, you
honey,
are.
I'm getting my signed copy when I get here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope that you guys learned something. I hope that your heart has softened. And I hope that you take our stories into consideration when you go outside every day and just keep your antenna up just a little bit higher. Um, that's it. I'll let you know when we do a part two. All right, this has
Definitely
been
this
great.
one. Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Until next time. Bye, guys.